And for our next story, I want to take you back in time to the Pacific War. It saw the US and its allies fighting against Japan. Cut to 2023. And given the tensions in this part of the world, I ask, are things reaching a point where we see another Pacific War? And I tell you why I ask this. With the US and its allies up in arms against China, Australia and Papua New Guinea are coming closer. In a few months from now, they will be signing a treaty. What kind of a treaty? A new security treaty. And the Australian leader wants a swift conclusion to the negotiations. No points for guessing what triggered this. We have been telling you repeatedly about what's happening in this part of the world. China's belligerent moves have sent alarm bells ringing. Australia and Papua New Guinea will be concluding negotiations over a comprehensive security agreement by April. They hope to sign a treaty by June. And the leaders of the two countries have called it a natural progression. Let me quote from what was said. The leaders described the planned treaty as a natural progression in the existing security partnership, reflecting the two countries' shared history, geographic proximity, and common regional strategic outlook. They said the deal would reflect the evolving nature of security challenges. The foreign affairs ministers have now been asked to finish the negotiations by April. Albanese and his Papua New Guinea counterpart, James Marape, then signed a joint statement of commitment for that security treaty. Albanese has said the security deal would be a comprehensive arrangement rather than a narrow one. The joint statement said the new deal should be public and transparent. Now let's zoom out and focus on the bigger picture. This agreement comes at a time when China has been making attempts to expand its influence in this part of the world, in the Pacific. And the Australian government has been concerned. In fact, both Australia and China have been trying to boost influence with the resource-rich Pacific country. Just have a look at what's really happening in this region. Just last year, China had signed a security pact with the nearby Solomon Islands there. This is a sparsely populated archipelagic state. The string of Southwest Pacific Isles lying about 2,000 kilometers off the coast of Australia and 7,000 kilometers from China. And China's pact with the Solomon Islands shook the Western power corridors and sent alarm bells ringing across Australia. Why is that? The move raised concerns that it could lead to a military build-up in the South Pacific region. That it is a precursor for what might follow. Just a few days ago as well, Papua New Guinea was making headlines. You know why? Because it decided to shut down its trade office in Taiwan. Now, given that this is a region on fire, which is seeing China's aggressive moves leading to tensions boiling over, it's difficult to not put two and two together. Was Papua New Guinea's move a concession to Beijing? Was it a result of Chinese pressure? And just by the way, Papua New Guinea denies that. But here's what else is happening. China's moves in this part of the world are no secret, and the US has been watching closely. As a result, and just yesterday we told you about how the US and Japan are boosting their partnership to tame the dragon. China's belligerence leaving no room for errors or for wasting any time. And the US realizes that. The US and Japan are now taking their ties a step forward. They are extending their security alliance to space. Why space? What is this out-of-the-world partnership? Let me explain. The US and Japan basically want to boost their defense against attacks on satellites. And why would that be a concern? Again, the answer is the threat from China. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met their Japanese counterparts in Washington on Wednesday, and they decided that depending on the nature of these attacks, an attack on either party would prompt the other to meet the common danger. Now, this move comes ahead of a summit that is to take place between the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and the US President Joe Biden on Friday. This would be the latest attempt by the two sides to jointly counter China and prepare for a possible conflict over Taiwan. China is upping its satellite presence. The US and Japan have also been conducting war games. War planning is underway, and they do not want to leave anything to chance. The Chinese aggression, when it comes to Taiwan, has led to pacifist Japan boosting its defense preparedness. We've been telling you about this. A free and open Indo-Pacific is the larger message that the US and Japan want to send out to China. But the latest move goes beyond that, protecting Japanese satellites from China, given the moves by Beijing and the growing military activity in space. Article 5 of the treaty between the US and Japan would now be extended and also apply to space. The article essentially obligates America to defend Japan if it comes under attack. The US and Japan have already been strengthening bilateral training and exercises in Japan's southwest islands. Tokyo calls these the Nansei Islands. And here, China has recently increased its naval presence. The moves by the US and Japan to come closer to counter China come with the clear intention of warning the dragon that China must behave itself. And if it does not and chooses to attack, there would be consequences. So coming back to the question that I asked earlier, is this the beginning of the next Pacific War? Well, the answer to that question depends on how far China really is willing to go to provoke the US and its allies. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.